Lesson 6-1. In this lesson, uh, we will be writing fractions as decimals. And then you'll learn to write fractions as terminating or repeating decimals and to compare rational numbers. Okay? Why is this important? You can calculate a batting average by knowing how to express a fraction as a decimal. So, let's take a look at this example in food. You scream ice cream. We all scream for ice cream. What is your favorite flavor? The International Ice Cream Association polled Americans about their favorite flavors. Some of the top finishers and the approximate fractions of the votes they received are shown in the graph below. If 3 over 76 of the surveyed chose chocolate chip as their favorite, okay, did more people choose cookies and cream or chocolate chip? And we will solve this problem in example 3. And let's take a look at the flavors that are involved here in this particular chart. Vanilla, 3/10. Okay. Chocolate, 11 or 1 over 11. Okay. Butter pecan, 1/19 of the vote. It got 1/19 of the votes. Strawberry, 1/19 as well. Cookies and cream is 2 over 55. And vanilla fudge is 1 over 38. Okay? So before we solve that problem, let's take a look at what we are going to learn for this particular section. So in the case above, it is convenient to write rational numbers as decimals instead of fractions because decimals are easier to compare. Okay, so any fraction can be written as a decimal. Now again, what are rational numbers? You can review the definition of rational numbers in 5-1. Basically any number that can be written in the form of a over b or can be put in the form of a fraction is considered to be a rational number. Okay? And let's consider the fraction 3/5. The fraction 3/5 also indicates 3 over 5. Remember that the fraction bar indicates the division operation. So we will use that to be able to convert our fraction into a decimal. Okay, method number 1, right here. Okay, divide using pencil and paper. So we have 3 over 5. And again, if you notice, the 5 is our divisor, 3 is our dividend. So 3 goes inside the house, and 5 goes out. Okay, and bring up the decimal point. How many 5s go into 30? That would be 6. Subtract 30 from 30, that would be 0. So 3 over 5 is basically 0.6. Then using a calculator, simply divide by 5 in calculator. That should equal 0.6. So the fraction 3/5 can be written as a decimal, 0.6. This means that 3/5 and 0.6 are equivalent rational numbers. Okay, remember that a decimal is like 0.6 is called a terminating decimal. Okay, and because the division ends or terminates when the remainder is 0. And that's why it's called a terminating decimal. The division ends and you have a remainder of 0. Okay, let's write 2 3/4 as a decimal in example number 1. So we know that 2 3/4 is the same as 2 plus 3/4. So method 1, we use pencil and paper. This is the method that we will be using. Okay, so 3/4 is the same. Remember, 4 is your divisor, 3 is your dividend. That means, okay, 3 goes inside, 4 goes outside, and we bring up the decimal point and start dividing. How many 4s go into 30? That would be 7. 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract that, that would be 2. And we simply bring down the 0. Okay, right there. And then how many 4s go into 20? That would be 5. And then subtract 20, end up with a 0. So the quotient would be 0.75. 3/4, okay, is equal to 0.75. And remember, we only consider 3/4 because what do we need to do with 2? We simply have to add 2 to 0.75. You end up with 2.75. Okay? And let's look at method 2. Again, this is using a calculator. 2 divided by 2 plus 3 divided by 4 is equal to 2.75. Okay? Some calculators are different, so when you use a calculator to check your answer, be sure that your calculator follows the order of operation. So therefore, using both methods, checking with method 2, the mixed number 2 and 3/4 equals the decimal 2.75. Okay, not all fractions can be written as terminating decimals. Consider the fraction 2/3. How can 2/3 be expressed as a decimal? Use paper and pencil again. 2 divided by 3. Okay, you end up with 0.666 following the normal division steps that we take every time. Bring up the decimal points and first consider 20. Okay, how many 3's going to 20, and then subtract that, you end up with 2. Then you bring down the 0. Okay, and if you notice, this starts to repeat. Okay, and using a calculator, 2 divided by 3, okay, is 0.6666. Okay, and then when you divide using pencil and paper, the remainder after each step is 2. Okay, if you continue dividing, the pattern repeats, so you have a repeating decimal. So 0.6 is called a repeating decimal. Okay, and also remember, I also mentioned this to you, when to determine if a fraction is terminating or repeating, so you know right away if you're doing the division, if you're doing it wrong or not. Remember that a fraction is terminating, okay, when the denominators, okay, have prime factors of 2's and 5's. Okay, so this is terminating. So a fraction will be a terminating decimal when the prime factors are 2's and 5's. Okay, only if they're not 2's and 5's and there's a 3 in the mix or 4 in the mix, even though they're 2's and 5's, okay, it is repeating. So when you talk about fractions, okay, and if let's say the denominator here is 15, if you notice a prime factorization of 15 is 3 times 5, even though there's a 5 there, this 3 makes this particular fraction a repeating decimal. Let's say 1 over 15, okay, and let's say 1 over, let's do 10 here, okay. If I do 10 here, this is considered to be a terminating decimal. Why? Because the prime factors of 10 are 2 and 5. Okay, so if the prime factors are 2's and 5's, or 2's or 5's, it will be a terminating decimal. If it's other than 2's or 5's, it's always repeating. Like the fraction 1 over 8, okay? The prime factorization of the decimal of the denominator is 2 times 2 times 2. They're all 2's, therefore it is a terminating decimal. And that's how you figure it out if it's a terminating or a repeating decimal. Okay? So like what I told you about calculators, some calculators round answers and others truncate answers. Now, definition of truncate means to cut off at a certain place value position, ignoring the digits that follow. So calculators actually, not some calculators, most calculators, okay, will be truncating answers. Okay. So now let's look at 5 over 11 as a decimal, and let's figure out the value of 5 over 11 as a decimal. Okay, and let's use paper and pencil for this one. This is our divisor, 11 our divisor, 5 is our dividend, therefore 5 goes into the house and 11 goes out. Okay, so we bring up the decimal point and divide normally. How many 11 is going to 45? That would be 4. 4 times 11 is 44. Subtract that, you'll end up with the 6. Okay, bring down that 0 right there. You have 60. How many 11 is going to 60? That would be 5. 5 times 11 is 55. Subtract that, it would be 5. bring down another 0 right over there. Okay, and the number of 11s that's going to 50 again is 44. Okay, the number of 11s that's going to 50 is 4, not 44. 4 times 11 is 44. Okay, get 60 and 45, and if you notice, okay, it begins to repeat. The quotient begins to repeat. Okay, and let's take a look at method 2 using calculator. Again, this is where the word truncate comes in. 5 divided by 11 is equal to 0.454545. If you notice, the last digit right there is 5, because what happens is that the calculator actually rounded the answer. Okay, so this calculator will round the answer, and if you look at another calculator, 5 divided by 11 will give you 0.4545454. It doesn't round it, it truncates whatever follows after 4. Okay, it cuts it off, and that's what it means when it says truncate. Some calculators will truncate answers. Okay, and moving on to example 3, before we go there, before we solve the beginning of the lesson, okay, sometimes you need to compare numbers, as in the application at the beginning of our lesson. You can use what you have learned about writing fractions as decimal to compare fractions. So we can actually now go back to the application beginning of the lesson, and let's see how we can apply this. Okay, so we will need to write fractions as decimals and then compare the decimals. The chocolate chip fraction, it got 3 over 76 votes, and as a decimal, this is 0.03947368842. Again, you are using a calculator for this. And for the cookies and cream, 2 divided by 55 using a calculator will be 0.3636363636. Okay, goes on forever. Now notice that in the thousands place, okay, 3 over 76 has 9 in the thousands place, and 2 over 55 has 6 in the thousands place. So in this case, 9 is greater than 6. Okay, 9 is greater than 6. Okay, and if we put this on the number line, okay, 0.039 is to the right of 0.036. Therefore, since 0.039 is greater than 0.036, you know that 3 over 76 is greater than 2 over 55. So, more people chose chocolate chip than chose cookies and cream. So even at this point right here, you don't have to even go to the number line. By just knowing that 9 is greater than 6, you already know that 3 over 76 is greater than 2 over 55. Okay, let's take a look at example number 4 and see and see. Another way to compare rational numbers is to write them as equivalent fractions with like denominators. Okay, so let's compare rational numbers. Okay, with like denominators. You have 7 over 8 and 5 over 6. Okay, and the LCD of 8 and 6 from what we learned will be equal to 24. Okay, so the LCM of is 24 of 8 and 6. 7 over 8 is equal to 21 over 24, the equivalent fraction of 7 over 8 with a denominator of 24. And 5 over 6 will have an equivalent fraction of 20 over 24. Okay, with the LCM at both with the denominators the same, you now start comparing the numerators 20 and 21. And since 21 is greater than 20, 21 over 24 is greater than 20 over 24. Therefore, 7/8 is greater than 5 over 6. Okay, another way of doing this, if you don't want to do LCMs, is this. You have 7 over 8, and you want to compare 5 over 6. Let's put that circle back. We do cross products. We multiply 7 times 6, which is 42, write the number on top. And we have 8 times 5, which is 40. And we know that 42 is greater than 40. Therefore, 7/8 is greater than 5/6. Okay, shorter method. Rather prefer that. Letter B. It is asking negative 3/5 and negative 0.75. We want to compare them. Okay, so to be able to compare them, we need to write both of them, or we need to write negative 3/5 as a decimal. So we know that negative 3/5, 5 divided, 5 divided by 3, that's right, would be equal to 0.6, and put the negative sign. So if you notice, okay, as we go to the left, 0 and 0, okay, as we start comparing digits, starting from the left, okay, we know that 0 is equal to 0, so we move on one digit to the right. 6 is less than 7, and since this is a negative number, we know that 0.6 now, since 0.6 is to the right of 0.7, we know that negative 0.6 is greater than 0.75, okay, because negative 6 in the tens place is greater than negative 7, okay, so therefore negative 3/5 is greater than negative 0.75. And if you want to verify your answer, and I'll leave it up to you, verify this using a number line, okay. And the secret word for today would be the word apple. Thank you for watching.